Well, Lauren, it's so wonderful to connect with you in our Learn to Listen series. And as I just said a moment ago, it's a selfish thing for me too, because it's a time to be able to connect with friends. So welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you are known for so many reasons in so many ways. You've been in Houston a long time, and your beautiful affiliation with Houston Ballet as an incredible dancer and artist. But I just would love for you to share a bit about just your start in dance, and we will just start weaving through some of the questions and just see how things go. Would that be all right?
That's great. So, well, I'm a native Houstonian, and you can Google me and find out how old I am. So I'm just going to say I'm 55. So I've been here for 55 years. And actually, my interest in ballet, I was interested in the violin. I had interest in music, and I was actually pretty good at music. I'm an only child, and I had a violin in the home. So it was one of my toys. It was one of the things that I did to occupy my time. But my dad was the assistant principal of high school for the performing and visual arts. And he was hiring dance teachers from Houston Ballet to teach in the school way back in 1972. And so he said to one of the teachers, I have an overactive daughter. And yes, she's learning violin, but should she take ballet, or what do you think? Is 7 years old a good age? And I said, oh yeah, ballet would be great. So he enrolled me at Houston Ballet. And luckily, I mean, the classes were a little expensive, especially since I was taking violin. And I was taking violin in public school. So uh, he had a friend on the board, and they applied. He helped them apply for. My parents applied for a partial scholarship, so I started on partial scholarship at Houston Ballet Academy at the age of 7 in 1972. I hated ballet when I first started because I didn't understand why I had to do this with my feet. I didn't get it. I didn't feel like I just felt like this. So I tried to be as small as possible. But then I had a superpower. I loved music. It was to live music. We had a piano in the room, and I could jump. I loved skipping across. Chasse coupe, chasse coupe, chasse coupe. It was like that was that opened up like the heavens. You know, the clouds move away from the sun. It was that for me with ballet, and that happened like halfway through your first year in ballet. You kind of chasse coupe, gallop. You do the gallop thing to the side with your arms to the side. That was what took off for me when it comes to ballet. Moving to music. Then I can say it was kind of rocky with ballet. I didn't have nice feet and legs, but I had quick twitch fiber. Apparently, when I look at little ones now, yes, I was very long from my hip to my knee. So I had the tools, they just were not shaped, of course. I'd never taken ballet. So, I mean, it takes a few years, right? But once I got it, I loved it. And I could compete with the boys and also play the violin. And then my parents said, you have to make a choice because if you're going to do this, you're going to need to have lessons outside of school, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I can always pick up the violin. I should take ballet. I can't even play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the violin, but I'm glad I chose ballet. Or I should say, I'm glad ballet chose me, actually. And then I graduated from high school, auditioned. Oh, I auditioned for SAB. I'll never forget that. I was 13. And SAB came to Houston Ballet, School of American Ballet, came to the Houston Ballet to hold their auditions. So the director said, you guys should audition for the experience of auditioning. I auditioned, made it through the audition. I was pretty excited. Thought maybe I'd be going to New York for the summer intensive. No, they sent me 2 letters saying, don't come. But it totally made sense because I wasn't School of American Ballet material. And then I auditioned for Houston Ballet after I graduated from high school and got in, and the rest is history. I've been working there for 37 years.
That's so incredibly beautiful. And I love your phrase about how ballet found you. And I know that that's really some of our stories when we can realize that we have something in our DNA, we have something that God has put in us. And as we continue to develop, those gifts, those talents are cultivated, but also those opportunities that He brings just find us, we think, but really.
Well, let me tell you what God did. this is what God did. When so I'm in the company, I'm probably 3 or 4 years in. Ben says to me, he just walks by and says, "You're going to teach in the summer intensive." And I'm like, "I can't teach ballet. I've only, he said, "How many ballet classes have you taken?" I said, "Millions. He goes, "Well, you're going to teach in the summer intensive." So not only did God give me that thing of, I need to do this, but I need to give this back,
Mm.
right? So now I always say you have to give things back to keep it. And the way I keep ballet in my life, keep dance in my life, keep movement in my life is by teaching.
Hmm.
And I have a gift for that because I don't choreograph. I am not original. I don't have an original bone in my body. Everything I do, I've been taught. It's been said before, and I repeat it and give it back to the students. And I think that there's a certain DNA you have to have for that, right? I can make up dance combinations. Who's making up a combination? We've got 5 feet positions, 6 arm positions, open and close. There's nothing to make up. It's all been done. But I have an eye for musicality, and I've helped being a musician, and what kinesthetically how it can happen for the student.
That's awesome. Well, and learning our areas of giftedness and also being open, because I know that you're an incredible educator, but I also know that you're a student, that you remain in that place of, wanting to learn to be able to serve so beautifully. Well, you mentioned just what God did in and through this opportunity of bringing dance to you. I'd love to hear more about just how that's cultivated in your own relationship with God when you know that God is speaking and do this, take this opportunity, or when you know that, that's probably not God, that's some other kind of voice speaking. Just how have you cultivated that, learning to listen to the voice of God?
Well, okay. So generally, and I've learned this, we are selfish and self-centered. I mean, we wake up, we think about us. We go to sleep, we think about us. But the awesome thing is God also thinks about us.
Hmm.
So, but knowing that, I don't know if that takes maturity or your walk. I can say that when I was young, I had my parents' God, right? It wasn't my God. I mean, I got the lessons and heard the word and studied the word and did all the things, but it took me actually moving away from home and dancing away from home to
Hmm.
find a relationship. But
Hmm.
then I lost my way, completely lost my way.
Yeah.
And the gift of desperation
Hmm.
and the grace of God kind of brought me back to a place where I could actually have a relationship and rely on.
Hmm.
Once that happened, once again, the sky opened up, the clouds went away, and growth happened. I
Hmm.
can say that my testimony is basically I had a problem with addiction. And through that, I found my way back.
Hmm.
And it's been an amazing, it's like I always say, God, I wish I could believe in God like my grandmother believed in God. Well, I've got that, right? And more because it's my
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
It's totally my relationship. So now, God definitely speaks to me through other people. But when I stop, because I'm like this, right? When I stop for that hour in the morning, I literally kind of get up and get going, and I kind of stop for that hour. Things come. Sometimes I'm sitting here at my desk, and there'll be something that I just have to do. I'll think about it. I've prayed about it. I've thought about it. I've talked about it. I've called my Miss Betty, my spiritual advisor. I've done all the things, and then when I'm quiet, the answer comes.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's God because I'm totally surprised
Yeah.
that I said it, thought it, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's happening. I
Yeah.
don't have a choice,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I'm just happy and blessed that I've got it. That I have let go enough to know. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It's something I can't explain. But I tell you, the gift of desperation is a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Being still and quiet and willing to listen,
Mhm.
it's hard. It
Mhm.
takes time and it takes
Mhm.
practice like
Mhm.
anything else. And I
Mhm.
had about 5 minutes of that. When I first started meditating, I had about, well, I'll be honest, because 5 minutes is not the truth. I had about 30 seconds before I started hearing stuff and, you know, and I'm not even, not able to focus.
Yeah.
And then eventually I realized I don't need to focus. I just need to stop and wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really believe in that peace be still thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But for me, and this is what I do with the word a lot, is I take it and make it work for me. Like peace be still means be still so that you will have peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one thing, and I can say that to people that are, and I still think I'm new on my journey, right? Um, and once I feel like I'm not new on my journey, I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get like, and that's okay because guess what? I go, okay, God, help me with this.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's my prayer. God, I'm yours.
Yes.
Help me with this.
Yes.
So, and that has worked for me. And then, of course, I have a group of people that that I rely on to bounce things off of. And then, of course, they say, well, you need to look at Psalm 275 and blah, 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 blah. You need to go to the book of, and I'm like, okay. So I've got, stuff written down and I open the word. And so that's how I handle things.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Well, it's beautiful. Well, I think that part of the intimacy is so incredibly key, but taking ownership in our own relationship and teaching younger people or in the collegiate realm where people are still borrowing the faith of their parents, that's a huge thing to make that transition into ownership of it's your own. So that part's really beautiful. And then understanding what you're saying about just the quietness and the stillness, that is so contrary. If you love music, that sound and it's engaging, and if you love dance, that's movement. And so those things aren't being still and those things aren't being quiet. So it feels sometimes like complete opposite of what we want to do or what we want to hear, but it really is what our soul needs to have that quietness. So it's really beautiful.
I can say that in dance, there's moments when you get to stand there,
Yeah.
even though you're moving, but you get to be still.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's time to retire by
Mhm.
the time you find that. So that's
Yeah.
what I say in maturity. And so when I'm teaching, I try to instill that in my dancers. I do combination times where you go Suchnu and before the Panabasque and like there's, I want them to feel comfortable enough in their own skin to be still.
That's good.
And I think the soul takes the same type of practice.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're often, as dancers, we're ready for the response and we're already in preparation mode for the response.
Right.
And so we do that in our conversations. We're thinking about, okay, what do I have to say? As opposed to really sometimes listening. And that translates over into our relationship with God as well. It's like God's saying these things, like, okay, now here's how I'm going to respond. But sometimes, I mean, for me, like in a performance, I wish I could teach the culture at times after a dance is over. Sometimes the most appropriate response is just to sit, just to sit. And that is so incredibly honoring, just to allow it to be absorbed and look what God has done, or look at the magnificence and the artistry of these people. But we get in the condition mode of responding either by applause or cheers and those accolades. And so we just think often that our response has to be so demonstrative. And so what you're talking about is just, it's really beautiful. And I think it's so key in the very principle of what God says, just be still. And you don't have to earn your worth or value by doing anything right now. Just be still. And it's really, really challenging. So thank you for sharing that. You've been learning that. And I know if we're all honest, we all are still on that journey.
Yeah. I mean,
Still.
I find that I interrupt, right? So I'm so excited about what you said. They're like, I've got my part to put in, and I interrupt. When you're interrupting, you're not listening, right?
Yeah.
And you're basically saying the end of what you have to say is not as important as what I have to say. And I still do it. I am, I still do it.
Yeah.
I did it in our conversation last week. And I really try. I mean, I'm like,
I know.
like that force out of the gate, right? But I'm better.
Yeah.
And I'm aware.
That's good.
So that's progress. Progress, not perfection, but I know I can do better. So I get to practice that.
Yeah.
And this platform, Zoom and Teams and all of this virtual, really gives us a chance.
Yes. Yes. That's good. And I'm the same way, admittedly. I just want to respond. And a part of it is not because I think I have so much brilliance to say necessarily. It's just like, I have got a remedy for that, or I've got, something that can help you. So it's well intended, but just sometimes I just okay. So believe me, God's still teaching me, and I'm still in that mode of learning that as well. So that's a skill. That's a leadership skill and a listening skill. What other skills do you feel like, as there may be leaders who will listen in this conversation that we're having, cultivating leadership skills? What do you feel like are some valuable ones to learn to, implement as a discipline in your life? What kind of leadership skills?
Well, there's okay, and this might not be a leadership. No, it is a leadership skill. Absolutely. Willingness is a leadership. Willing to listen, willing to allow people to have a voice and uh, envelop the space and be.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a leadership skill is boundaries. That's one of the biggest ones, I think. Not because in boundaries there's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, especially when you are, and I'll just use this as an example, supervising people or teaching a class and having control of the class. You set the boundaries, set the parameters. These are the boundaries that you have to work in. That gives people all the freedom in that space to do more than ever, right? And then if you go, okay, just go, people are like, I mean, it's restricting because you don't know.
Right.
Open-mindedness, knowing that you don't know everything. The willingness to learn that's willingness again. To learn. I think those are the four kind of key things that I try to keep in my dealing with people, because I supervise people and programs. So, and I teach in classes.
Yeah.
So in herding cats, those are my programs, really, my programs, because my programs can all have babies if I want them to do all the things and help all the students that I want them to help. They become more programs, and I have to realize that, it doesn't have to. I can't save the world in one giant leap. I have to do it a bit at a time.
Yeah.
And supervising people, that listening skill is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And being open-minded to their ideas,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you don't know everything. Mm-hmm. Especially now, I think there's someone in every decade. We have someone in my department in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, right? So it's great to have these people in their 20s come in and say, well, really, we can, if you just push control and hit click, 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 all of that can happen at one time. I'm like, woohoo, just the little things, right?
Yeah.
And acceptance that everything is not going to be the way you want it, but there's a solution. No matter what, there's a solution.
Yeah, that's so good. And it sounds like in there is just that flexibility, even, right? A part of what you're saying is being flexible to listen, to learn, to acclimate. And they're all these dancing kind of skills, but they're also just those interpersonal skills as well. I think sometimes as leaders, people may enter in already having an idea of what all the problems are, and here's how we're going to solve them. But sometimes we don't even know what's going on unless we take time to listen and ask. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, as you are a believer and artist, and your career really has been in the marketplace, just out in the industry, how have you seen God move both in that arena, just in the industry in dance? And then also, you have a lot of friends that are Christians that are operating in the sacred realm of dance, or in the, more religious Christian realm of dance. Just would love to hear just how you've seen things grow and develop and evolve and change regarding your own faith, or regarding, how God might be moving.
Well, I've been very blessed because there's crossover in
Yeah.
my life. I've seen crossover in dance. I have seen wonderful dance at the YGP of all places that um, that I would take to my church, right? I mean, it's there's great crossover. That
Mm.
has just been awesome for me, and acceptance from people that would never even know that. And I just love the learning. Um, some people are moved and don't know
Mm-hmm.
why, uh, and I don't know. I'm not saying that I know why, but I'm moved sometimes and don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
I know what
Yes.
moves me, but
Yes.
don't know the why.
Yes.
So I just find hope in that. Um, I know that I can say this, how it's moved with me. I'm not a choreographer, I say that, but yet I choreograph for these children at my church. And I've got this group of dancers that don't dance that are now dancers. They
That's
haven't taken a class, not a class.
yeah.
And we are moving. They know when I say soutenu, arms up to fifth, that they put that left foot in front and they switch their feet and back around and bring their arms up and bring them back down slowly, but to
Yeah.
the music. Um, but I'm also, dance is education, no matter where it is,
Yeah.
right? There's so many verses, and I keep on bringing the scripture back into it because in the word, there's so many things that we did to dance throughout Old Testament, New Testament, all of it, right? There's so many dance scriptures, and I talk with the kids, the girls, about that when we dance. Because I'm like, okay, do you know why you're doing this?
Hmm.
So there's education and there's learning, and I think there's crossover in that uh, in the classical conservatory dance world, in the jazz dance world, even in like hip hop and spoken word,
Hmm.
right? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's I think it's a giant hug,
Yeah.
and it would be great if it would. I just want to. I love it. I just love to see it. The acceptance
Yeah.
of God in
Yeah.
many places.
Yeah. That's so true. And I know you've seen dance evolve through the years, and in your involvement, investment since the 70s. So we're close. I'm 57 and started dancing when I was 4, and went more the education realm in the context of degrees at university, and I've seen some things evolve. But I feel like the lines aren't always so clean and clear as some people might like to make them. That,
That's right.
the more, I think, older perspective was, if you went to a performance like a Houston Ballet performance, that that's this secular experience, and they're not doing it for God, and you're not going to have an encounter that is going to stir your soul. But I really believe that that's mentality at times. And then where you find that and where you get fueled in that is when you go to church, and then you get to see those church dancers do this. But I feel like that even sometimes you go there and it didn't speak to you. You know what I mean? It didn't move you, but you're at the ballet and something, just like you're saying, the who, but you're not able to articulate it, but it's so profound.
That's
And I
right.
don't think that's any less God. And I
That's
believe
right.
you believe that, and we know that. So that you've seen that.
I've seen it, and not only that, but I can tell you, I can give you the choreographer, Balanchine, the
Yeah.
ballet, Serenade, the choreographer, Ben Stevenson, the ballet, Four Last Songs. Um, there's so many ballets, Rite of Spring. There's so many ballets where people ascend to heaven or are coming from the heavens, or there's a spiritual You see the spirit leave the body. Um, and there's so many Christians that are dancing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why they're dancing. It's for the glory of God. So I just, what I find now is there's more of an acceptance. It's spoken, it's said. Um, we don't have to hide or feel like you have to hide.
Yeah.
Um, and why would you have to hide?
Yeah.
What was so surprising for me was when I was at the YAGP and saw this child who's obviously a Christian. And I spoke to him afterwards, and I know he's a Christian. And he did this piece, and it was his where he was in his little 15-year-old journey with God. And honey, did he not win the contemporary division with that? Yes, he did. The Link School of the Arts, I took a piece there called He Loves Even Me. Right?
Mm.
And I mean, it's an absolute spirit. And they were not even doing flying armchairs and fouettes. And
Yeah.
it was just coming from a place of love. And it was amazing. It got to go to New York.
That's
So,
excellent.
I mean, it's crossover and it's fabulous.
Yeah. That's so excellent. And I think that that's something that we not only need to, I think it's, and I'm real cautious about the shame words like you should do this, but I do believe we should be open to how God can move with no confines. And we get comfortable and we're taught often that this is the way it's done. And it's fear often why we are making those decisions or choices. Go ahead.
Right. So, and this has helped me with don't say the word, you shouldn't say the word. You can not say the word should and replace it with can.
Yes.
You can do this. You are allowed to do this because the should word pushed me away from for so long.
Yeah.
You have to, you should.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Yes.
You're allowed.
Yes.
So then there's a different type of ownership
Right.
of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the,
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely agree. I agree with that. And I also have been in the church long enough to know that I'm like over it at times too, where there's confine. And it's like, no, we have to be aware that there's amazing people who are just fortified in their faith, and God has called them in the industry to be salt and light and love and to work with excellence. And so I believe we're past some of those earlier days, like the way back when with the Amy Grant, who started crossing over and singing some secular music. Everybody thought, oh, she's lost her soul and she's not a Christian anymore. But that was really how we looked at it. And that's just so narrow. So I respect you so greatly, and I appreciate the work that you've done and your vulnerability and your honesty and your tenacity and the strength. It's just so beautiful that you are right where God wants you, and you're operating in the passion and the fervor, and it's coming out of this really deep love well, and you're doing it well. And so you're just a gorgeous example, I believe, of what it means to be a woman after God's heart and operating in the opportunities that he's provided unapologetically. It's really, really beautiful. Really beautiful.
He saved my life.
Yeah.
I gave me life. I have a life. Yeah. I now get to do everything. So, yeah.
That's
unapologetically.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So as we're starting to wrap it up, I just would love for you to share anything else that might be on your heart, just as far as things that you've learned, nuggets, things that we didn't get to touch on, or just like you're saying, these things that you get to share. What else is there inside you that we haven't talked about that you'd like to encourage people with, or to inspire, or to?
Well, when I you know, it's let's be kinder to ourselves, right? Meet yourself right where you meet these other people, right where they are. I think we should take time to meet ourselves right where we are and be kinder to ourselves. Music is healing, movement is healing. yes, you can be still, but it's okay to move in that stillness.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. I think it's important, especially in these times, because we're stuck to this computer for communication with others,
Yeah.
right? So don't forget to move. Don't forget to breathe out. Your lungs automatically breathe in.
Yeah.
That's their job. It's your job to think about breathing out. And as a dancer, become the music, and it gets easier.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know any other way to say that. I'd have to be teaching you class
Yeah.
to break that down. But um, my young dancers out there, really, if you know the music so well, like you know some of this other music so well, if you know the music well, sing the music as you dance, and it will help you. It's part of the technique.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really good. And it makes me think about, just as a Christ follower, what's our objective? It really is becoming more like God
Mm-hmm.
and allowing Him to refine us. And so, as you're saying, becoming the music, allowing that just to be such an integral part of what you're doing. And the same with our relationship with God, right?
Right.
That
You
become,
breathe him in
yeah,
and let him
yeah.
engulf everything, right?
Yeah, it's fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for this time, and just bless you as we are entering into this holiday season, and pray you have a most blessed Christmas, and just know that there's time to reprieve and be quiet and be still before it all starts back up in January. But just
Yes.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.